Hi, and welcome back to Someone Needs to Say It TV. I'm Emily here with Alex, and today we're going to be talking about the government shutdown and how that's related to the SNAP food benefits people are going to be losing in the month of November. What does this mean, Alex? What does this mean for our country?
Well, there's a lot that goes into it that I don't think everybody really understands. So, not necessarily all of the SNAP benefits could or will go away. With the government being shut down right now, the federal side of it, the federal funding for the SNAP programs, that's basically on pause right now until the government is open again. However, states can cover down on those benefits and ensure that that money still goes out to those people that are the beneficiaries. So it's not necessarily that everybody's going to lose it, but they could, especially if the state that they live in doesn't or aren't planning on paying those benefits out until things get resolved. So that's first things first. Secondly, if there's more to the actual people that are going to, even if the government opens back up and they do give those benefits out, there's going to, I think some people are confused about the people that are going to be affected even at that point. So the work requirements, I don't know if you heard, I'm sure you have, those things that people were not so happy about, some people weren't so happy about, that stuff will take place on November 1st. The requirements for them to work a certain amount of hours or community service for a certain amount of hours.
So people on these benefits, there's a new work requirement going on?
Yes, yeah. So
Tell me about that. What's going on with that?
So the way that works is, I believe it's 20 hours a week. I'm pretty sure that, about 99% sure that's the amount that they came up with. So if you are receiving benefits, you either have to work 20 hours a week to continue receiving those benefits or volunteer community service to continue. And I think that community service, I think, is like 15% or 15 hours, but don't quote me on those, but it's somewhere in that range.
Okay.
So even if let's say the government comes back on, they do pay out these benefits, there's still going to be some people that are going to be affected by the work requirements in order to maintain those benefits.
And is this starting in November or?
Yeah, starting November 1st, those work requirements or service hour requirements are going to be in place, yes.
How do you think people are going to react to that?
Well, I mean, I've seen quite a few different reactions. Some people are not so happy about it, mainly on the people receiving benefits. But then on the other side of it, the other part of America that aren't on the receiving benefits seem to think that makes some sense, like that
Yeah,
you should have to
I can see that.
I mean, we all have to be big boys and big girls, and at the end of the day, is it fair for someone to not have to do anything to be able to receive hundreds? And I mean, I know how much my grocery bill is to feed my kids, and I'm sure you can level with that as well. So it's hard out here for everybody, and I mean, I think that's not an unreasonable request for people that are receiving benefits to do some type of work hours. But however, from what I've heard in the past, and I haven't ever been a recipient of it, so this is my limited take, so please don't take it as gospel. But a lot of times, from what I've heard, is that if you work these hours, then they end up cutting back on the amount of funds that you can receive. So it's kind of like, if I do try to do better to better myself and go and earn these other money so I can make my own money, and I have to receive this, well, then they take that money from me. So it's like kind of a double-edged sword, so that I think that incentivizes people to not want to go and gain additional employment, because if you make too much money, well, then you don't qualify for the benefits. And so then now I have to go and work outside of the house, find childcare, all those other things that come with you having to go and do that work requirement or community service requirement. And ultimately, once the dust settles, you might actually end up losing out by actually doing those things. Versus, I think that it should be like, hey, go work these. If we're going to mandate that you have a work requirement, we're not going to penalize you for going and doing that part.
Yeah, that shouldn't have any relation to it.
I think that they should use that as like an extra incentive to help people.
Yeah.
Instead of knocking them for working hours and gaining that extra money from those 20 hours a week of I think.
Is it just work, or is it like community service too?
Well, so it's like both those options. So you can either go work 20 hours or you work 15 or 20 hours of community service. But instead of them you work those 20 hours and now you got this extra money, well, we're going to take benefits from you. I don't think that they should do that.
And these are for the able-bodied, right? Not like the
Able-bodied, yes, yeah.
the
yeah.
elderly or the children. You know,
Correct,
obviously
correct.
they can't do that.
Correct,
Okay.
or if you have a disability or whatever, something like that. Yes,
Okay.
it's not for everybody, but yeah.
Okay, what about what do you think about like the items these people purchase? Do you think with how unhealthy America is with
Right.
diabetes and all these health conditions that are food related, do you think the government should have some type of say in what they purchase?
I personally do. If you talk to any old timers that were around when they had the government cheese, you hear about that from back in the day, the
Okay.
government cheese, the government rice, those things. So they used to have certain items that you could go to as it was the food stamp program. Well, you
Okay.
had these basically ration cards, and that was what you could go in exchange for these government cheese and government.
Why did they
those
take
things.
that away?
Because basically the argument was that it was dehumanizing. It's like, you have to go there and get the substandard food items. And so, plus it was also, once they did the numbers, it was actually a huge capital expenditure for the government to source these things, and things go to waste, things don't get used, or whatever. But it was also harder for people to, like, let's say you have a disability. How can you go to this location to pick up those items? And, what if you need other food items other than those things, especially with kids and things like that, to make sure they have the right nutritional value or in their meals and stuff. I think that it was a good thing to move away from that, because anytime the government gets their hands in the specific items that you're procuring to give to people, it always ends up in the government normally isn't very good about cost savings and doing things smart. It's normally with
Yeah.
a huge bill, and it's very inefficient, and it doesn't necessarily help people in the way that it was designed to help. So I was a fan of them going to the EBT cards or the SNAP cards or whatever. However, I think that there should be some realistic limitations
Like
on
diet
what people.
restrictions.
Well, yeah, I mean,
just
should
to
you be able
get
to buy
people that eat
soda?
healthier.
Right, exactly. So we should be incentivizing that, and not just saying, "Oh, you can only buy vegetables and fruits." I don't think that's the right
Well,
answer.
it's like what they did
But,
for
like,
the school lunches. They
Right.
made them
They-
more
they
healthy.
yeah,
so
and
why
I think
can't
that's
they
a
do
good
that for
thing.
the SNAP and EBT cards?
Right. Well, yeah, I think that there should be limited. I don't think that you should be able to go and buy cases of Coca-Cola,
No.
soft drinks. I mean, as a kid, we couldn't afford to have soft drinks.
No,
we
I didn't have
I mean,
any.
unless you went to Aldi and bought some 12-cent, and
I grew up with no soda.
there was no sodas in the house ever. I didn't even
We
know what
called
that, that wasn't even an option. We had milk, juice, water. That
was it.
That was the options. So that was what it was. I grew up
I
not
still,
even having that
still
as
to
an
this
option.
day, I do
don't even
not
buy
drink
it.
soda.
I don't
drink
I don't buy it.
I never drank it. I never became a fan of it. So I
Right,
just
and I think that
I
I mean, in
don't-
those
I don't
those
even
type
buy it
of
for my
things,
family.
right? And well, I don't really want my kids to be drinking sodas like that with the knowing how much the sugars are and high fructose corn syrup and blah blah blah. Those aren't
Yeah.
really healthy choices. So if we are providing benefits to try, and the whole purpose, from my understanding of SNAP benefits, is to provide food for families, nutritious food for families. So
yeah.
that kind of goes against the whole premise of why the program's in place, and that's so that we can make sure that the nutritional value is passed on to the people that need that help and assistance. But also you can do things like limitations on snacks and things like that, because if you're just going in there and buying bags and bags of
That's not healthy.
potato chips, that's not a healthy choice.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that you can't have any, but I don't think that it's right to just be doing nothing but loading up on
Don't-
junk foods. I think that there should be a limitation about the amount of, but I'm also not trying to say, oh, you can't ever have anything
Yeah.
nice or a treat for yourself, whatever. So I would just like to see a realistic concept that people put together, a committee of people, not just bureaucrats, but parents or
Yeah.
people, and somehow
together.
devise a council and put some, Americans.
Yeah, 'cause
not,
I mean-
not just senators or representatives,
Yeah.
but real people, and say, hey, let's talk, and then also have some doctors, nutritionists on that panel, and let's come up with realistic things that, ways to ensure that we're providing the things that we're supposed to be providing.
Yeah.
But then also, I know you've seen the videos where guys go in there, guys or gals, whatever, go in there and they load up on crab legs and filet mignon and
Oh
all
my
that stuff.
God,
And
yeah.
as a kid, I didn't know, the only steak that I ever heard of was Salisbury steak.
Yeah. Right.
Salisbury steak and cube
Same
steak. And come to find out as an adult, those aren't really what you would call steaks. That's more
No.
like diced meat or smashed up meat. Loved it as a kid, but that's all I knew.
I
never
agree.
heard of
I
a
feel like-
sirloin or a T-bone or
Yeah.
anything like that until I became an adult.
No, same
So,
here. I feel like there should be more restrictions on these SNAP food benefits.
Yeah.
Just
I
to, you know,
Better
it'll-
Americans' health
if
and,
you
and,
look at the
and
domino
make sure that they're
effect-
spending it the right way.
Yeah, and with the domino effect, it'll fall into health insurance. It'll help,
It'll
with the
benefit
overall
those things,
health
yeah.
and everything. It's like in mothers too, with
Sure.
having babies and not doing abortions, doing away with that. It'll benefit the mothers and the children.
I agree. And if we're going to promote that, and we're going to promote and say, hey, we want to try to stop as many abortions from happening. If we're going to encourage people to have
Exactly.
kids, I think that, and we have these programs in place, I think that we should be making steps to ensure that we're providing those things for those mothers. If we're going
Yeah.
to encourage people to have babies, I think it's on us as a country to ensure that the people that we're encouraging to have kids have the means and the
Because
things
it's
that
not
they
like
need.
you just have a kid and then
That's
it.
it. No.
No, you got to look
No.
at the
So-
foster care system. You got to look at
Yeah.
all of that
child
play
care and
into
all
it.
those things. Like we need a broad and I hope here soon when we do an episode coming up that we can talk about those things. But I definitely think that we need to
Yeah.
a full picture, and that's why I was going back to that council thing. To like, how can we not only provide for everyone that's in need of the SNAP benefits?
Yeah, 1 in 8 Americans.
But then also, like, let's not forget about the mothers that we're encouraging to have babies, and let's make sure that we set this
Yes.
aside so that they have the stuff that they need to raise those kids that we
Yeah.
encourage them to have. That's if we're going to put them in that position where we're encouraging it to happen. I think that's on us to help make sure that they have the things that they need
Absolutely.
to
You nailed it right
continue
on the
that.
head.
Because if they don't, and they just have these kids that they were encouraged to have, and then they don't have the support, we're setting them up for failure.
Yeah, that's not fair to them.
That's
I'm
not right.
sorry,
It's,
but
it's not fair
right.
for the kids either.
No, absolutely not.
And that's and in my opinion, at the end of the day, that's the number one reason why this program is in place, and why it makes sense and
Yeah.
why I support it. It's because
Well, what about like somebody like me? I don't receive SNAP food benefits, but not that I'm knocking it or anything. But I just, I don't qualify for it, so I don't receive it. Why should I be worried about this SNAP food shutdown?
well, it's going to have a ripple effect depending on how long this government shutdown lasts. It's going to have an effect on the economy. I mean, I don't know the exact numbers. I know it's like $40 billion or something like that is passed out.
$8 billion a month
$8
is
billion a month.
spent at the grocery stores from SNAP
the
food
SNAP
benefits.
Okay.
Nationwide.
Okay.
So $8 billion is going to go missing. And that's a month. $8 billion a
So
month.
times 12, you're talking about almost $100
That's
billion
over, yeah.
that's going to come out of the
100
economy.
billion. Come on.
That's going to have an effect
so,
on the stock market.
as a business owner, they're going to want to jack up the prices. I feel like we're going to
that's
see
possible.
a drastically increased price in our groceries.
That's very
They're
possible.
already up 2.7% a year. I mean, I feel like they're just going to go up a lot more. People are going to
a very good
lose their minds. They're already going to be without food, without their SNAP food benefit. So they're going to be angry about that. And then the price is going up and the grocery store is possibly closing down.
right. If they're not
I
getting,
mean,
they're
it could
missing
be madness, y'all. This could be a really
$100
big thing happening. You don't
There-
understand. There are 41.7 million Americans on these benefits.
Right.
And that's just all being taken away.
Yeah, there's no way that this doesn't have a very large ripple effect or
Yes.
cascading effect on things, not just the people not receiving those benefits, but the grocery stores that are used to having that revenue, the supply chains that normally support those items that will no longer be. Yeah, there's going to be a lot.
There's more to it.
I really wish the government would. I understand there's some things that need to be changed in the program, but doing this the way that it's happening now, that's not the way to do it. Like our government needs to come together and actually work on issues versus we're just going to shut the government
like
down
they're creating
until
issues.
somebody. That's not working together. That's not bipartisan conversations and coming up with solutions. That's
Yeah.
just we're going to hold this hostage until we get our way. That's not the way things are supposed to work, and it's really, honestly, frustrating for me because over the past years, it's like we've gone farther and farther away from coming together and working together to find a solution that works for everybody. Now it's whoever's in power, they just strong arm everybody, and it's just you guys get your way because you're in power.
Yeah.
And so versus working together to try to find a solution that's better, the best thing for everybody.
No,
Which I'm
it's like
pretty
they
sure
want
that's the way
division
that it
with
was
everything.
supposed to be from the way they built the
Yeah,
system.
that's what our country's
just
built
saying,
on. I
just
mean,
saying.
come on.
Or was supposed to be built on.
Yeah,
Supposed to
supposedly.
be, yeah.
But yeah, with this
Well-
program being shut down, I'll put some links attached to the video about food pantries that are in the area. Definitely take advantage to whatever resources are out there. I know I saw in this video that there's like a lasagna where you can get online and apply for a lasagna meal, and you can even volunteer to make lasagnas. And I'll put the link in the comments too about that website, but they will mail you a
I'm sure
so
there's going to be a lot
that's
of
pretty cool.
with organizations and
There's
nonprofits and stuff. Hopefully, and this is one thing that I back from my army times. Like, man, it was cool to see how the country came together to support soldiers when we were overseas.
Yeah.
And like that really meant a lot. Like I mean,
Like just
it,
writing letters,
writing
like
letters,
any little thing.
sending,
I
sending
remember
care
doing that,
packages,
yeah.
little things like that. I mean, it really meant a lot to us over there when there's not.
Because I remember
not-
doing that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I remember getting the letters, reading them from kindergarten, first grade, second grade. I mean, I'm.
Yeah, because I was in
Yeah.
fourth grade when you were being
Yeah.
sent overseas.
Yes,
Crazy.
no, it's. I think back to Hurricane Harvey and how the community came together to
did,
help each other
yeah.
out. So hopefully,
Because we had an issue with FEMA. too.
yeah, for sure. Well, and the government shutting down, and that's what's causing this situation. So hopefully, we see the
help with
pouring of
local-
community to help each other out through this
Yeah,
process. Hopefully, we see that.
Yeah, I'll definitely, keep an eye out open for the local
Yeah.
pantries and
Right.
the local
Any
community
helpful information we
churches
can
and
pass
stuff
along,
like that.
yeah, we'll
But
put that in the
anything.
comments. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely, yeah, for
And
sure.
hey, if you guys want to help out as well, we're here in the Houston area, so our information is going to be more geared towards this area. But if you don't have some time, you want to drop a link in the comments where you're from, might help somebody out that's watching the video and be able to take advantage of those resources also.
Yeah, that's great. Well, y'all tune in next time, and we will see y'all later.
See y'all.
Bye.